Thank you for having me, CK.
So you are a very interesting person. You know, in your talk, you started with the phrase cosmic justice that you became a chef in New York. How did you come all the way from Senegal and end up in New York?
So it's a long journey. It's an ongoing journey. Well, I was born in Dakar. Dakar is the capital city of Senegal, and grew up there. An eventful childhood until I was a student in physics and chemistry. Very political at the time. When I was a student already, university in Senegal, we very political. It's like so there was a year where we got into a series of strike. We were like just wanted some changes in the school system. We wanted the government to treat us better, and those strikes went on for so long that the government decided to shut down the school system. So the university is shut down, and here we are. We have to face our immediate future. We all have to start over a new year next year, and I was one of those guys who thought it wasn't a question. It wasn't. I wasn't going to start over again, and I've managed to get a student visa at a small college in Ohio, out of all places. And I was on my way to Ohio. We decided to visit New York because a friend of mine lived in New York. It's not that I decided. New York was a necessary stop coming from Dakar. You have to stop by JFK. And then I was going to figure out a way to bus my way to Ohio. And my friend lived in New York. It was back in the late 80s, 1989 to be precise. And my friend lived in an area near Times Square, a hotel, quote unquote hotel. Very, it's the scariest place I had ever seen in my life. This whole area. I was coming from, innocent Dakar, like where everything was nice, seaside city, tourist place. And here I am in Times Square in the 80s, in the middle of like an AIDS epidemic, the crack epidemic. I mean, everything was like just, I wasn't prepared for that. And 3 days after I arrived, I was robbed 3 days after I arrived in New York. That's really what changed everything for me. And I was robbed, and I was very tempted to return to Senegal. I was like, fuck this. This was just too. I'm sorry for using.
No, perfect. I love that.
But
No,
I
go for it. Yes.
literally said, I gotta return. This is a crazy place, crazy country. Barely spoke English. I was just like, what am I doing here? And then a friend of mine, somebody I met in that place, that hotel, happened to be working in a restaurant, and that restaurant was looking for a busboy. And he asked me if I would take the job. He asked, why don't you take the job, get some money? And naively, I'm like, okay, I'll do that. And I didn't need much experience. My first job ever in my life. And here I am in this restaurant in the West Village called Garvin's. And the place was fascinated to me because it was a cultural shock. In the kitchen, I come from a culture where cooking is a gender-based activity. I grew up with women in the kitchen and men, whatever, they are doctors or street cleaners, whatever, but not in the kitchen. And here I am in this restaurant. There's only men in the kitchen. There's not a single woman, and I'm like, "What's this country is nuts." And but that was great because not only Senegal is a gender-based activity for the kitchen, but everyone loves food. It's a great food culture. If you know Senegal, it's an amazing food culture, and this is because it's just like this melting pot. Dakar is a melting pot, and it's been a crossroad for cultures for hundreds of years. We were colonized by the French. Before the French, the Portuguese were there. We have a big Vietnamese community in Senegal, a big Lebanese community, and all of these cultures, they bring their food, and that makes just like this very interesting fusion, that you see. That's really what I grew up around, this amazing food. So I enjoy great food. My mom was a foodie before foodie was a thing, and here I am in this restaurant, and I'm looking at these dishes, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing, and these guys can do it, and salivating, and at the same time very curious about how did they get there. And the chef became this friend of mine, a mentor and a friend, because he wanted to practice his French with me, and anytime, and he was like, hey, why don't you get extra shifts? Come here, you start washing dishes like I did, and we practice French. You get extra money, you wash dishes, and you learn your way up into the kitchen. You seem to be very interested in cooking, and I was like, why not? For me, any way to get more money to get out in New York was like good enough. So, but of course, I hated washing dishes, and that was I was like, I hated it. I was like this, college guys thinking I was going to be, working in an office. This mindset, and that was the best thing that happened to me. I think it humbled me, but it also gave me a strong foundation for the kitchen. I think, even now in my restaurants, I always like to hire people who have been going through those steps, because it's so important to respect that step of the kitchen. But gradually over the years, I've started to really fall in love with cooking. It's like, I started from washing dishes, started peeling vegetables, of course, all the steps, becoming a prep cook. After becoming a prep cook, becoming a garde manger, working the salad station. From the salad, I started working the other stations of the kitchen, the grill, the saute station, the sauces. And, over years, I mean, it's been like a span of 30 years, of course, but over the years, I fell in love with cooking. I saw that cooking was also chemistry, which was my background, which is what I've been studying in school. And I could see those reactions were chemical reactions. Everything was happening in the kitchen. I could connect with the reaction that made sense to me. So I educated myself, and the chef was leading me towards the books to read, and I was, really getting into it. From there, I went into an Italian restaurant, learned more skills, worked in a French restaurant, Jean-Claude in Soho, and grew gradually, worked up the ladder of the kitchen until I got to this another restaurant in Soho, where I became a sous chef. It's called Boom. And from becoming a sous chef, that restaurant was so. Oh, go ahead.